Wu. Jiangnan Zhejiang East Road, Fujian Road Xianwei Prefecture, Fuzhou Governor's Office, Quanzhou Qingxi Xianyou Temple. Master Qian Chong. Worship to the Lord of Heaven and Earth, my teacher Wu Chang. Worship to the founder of Mount Lu, Su Gongjiulang. Respect the ancestral court of Mount Lu. Worship to the founder of Mount Lu. Adhere to the principles of holiness, loyalty, and righteousness. Huai en Bao and Kang. Only now in times of disaster. Begging Shizu to exorcise evil and bind evil spirits. Dust comes down to earth. Mother. Ghost. In a state of anger, Gongshi Qianzhong, who looked like a demon, couldn't help but curse and utter obscene language to the onlookers who were cheering and crying like ghosts and wolves, saying, Master Ghost. Chapter 1. Act 1. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Wedge Emperor Zhaozong is a saint, and heaven is above all nations. Ancestors should obey orders, and the four sects should follow orders. Qingxi has no boundaries, and we share the same virtues. Great-grandson Jishu, enjoying the perfect match of gods. Han Chao, he Jijian, a large pond shimmering with ripples, sprinkled with gold and jade, surrounded by patches of reeds, swaying like a young girl in the midst of spring. Her mood swings and she is always restless. My colleagues in Jingli have arranged to gather with Gongshi Qianzhong today. So early in the morning, when it was supposed to be a day off, the master who had already returned to his own farm in the countryside was waiting early on the way to greet his friends. Gongshi Qianzhong, styled Dong. He studied under Master Faxin of Lushan, a legitimate Taoist of Lushan, and was also the junior brother of the leader of Lushan Changsheng sect and the Tongmingzi Pang Changsheng. In the farm, he had already sent someone to prepare a banquet and had a big meal with his friends. Gongshi Qianzhong doesn't know how to drink alcohol, so he will only be responsible for eating. On the side of the official road, I finally met a friend, a 3 or 5 good young master and a pitiful green handsome young man, who was riding a horse and singing happily for a while. Gongshi Dong woke up in a hurry this morning, wearing a pure black Qian dark patterned round-necked robe that he had worn at the gatekeeper's office. He wore a ponytail on his head, casually wrapped around a handkerchief, with a cantilevered wrist and a golden lion red fire patterned clothing belt tied around his hips. He wore a 6-in-1 black-headed boot, and held a golden thread wrapped around his left hand, whipping a horse. He rode a flying white-blue and white horse. This outfit was both rich and noble at first glance. On the way home with his friends, a few young men happened to meet a girl fishing and relaxing by the big water pond. As they approached, they saw a thin and small little girl, who they thought had lost their child. However, upon closer inspection, although she was only 13 or 14 years old, she was a beautiful embryo. She saw the girl with curled hair and a colorful cloud-patterned forehead tied around her head, dressed in a pure white round-necked inner robe, with a light yellow coat on half of her arms adorned with goose bead patterns. She wore a pair of colorful floral striped pants, a blue cloud-colored small-sleeved lapel robe, and a pair of rui shoes, resembling a jade figure. And this outfit, at first glance, is also from a decent family background. Everyone looked at each other and discussed with each other. Gongshi Dong came forward to ask if the young lady was lost with her family. As a result, Gongshi Dong saw that the young lady was cute and liked her in his heart. He lost his sense of propriety and went up to lift the child's armpits high above his head. Gongshi Qianzhong held the little girl's itchy flesh in both hands, and the little girl blushed instantly. Suddenly, she couldn't help but cry and laugh. She fought hard and pursed her mouth before she couldn't laugh out loud. At this moment, the master looked like a fool, with a silly smile on his face. He said foolishly, "Child. Who do you belong to?" The child looked down at him with an idiot-like expression on his face. "Don't be afraid, children. Uncle will take you home. Look at how many people there are around Uncle, we are not bad people. Bad people don't go out in groups to do bad things. The phrase, little girl, scared the master so much that he almost threw him out. I'm already an adult. Gongshi apologized to the girl and revealed his family background. My name is Gongshi Qianzhong. I work in the capital and am the gatekeeper of the 16 guards of the southern yamen. Gongshi's sincerity made the young lady laugh and said, My name is Xuanwei. A few companions accompanying the master also quickly ran over, thankfully apologizing for their caution. Gongshi Dong saw half of the bamboo fish baskets stuck in the water on the ground at a glance, and proposed to pay to buy the small fish that Xuanyou had just caught. One is to apologize, and the other is to gather with friends and also use this fish to drink. Gongshi spoke beautifully and seriously, which made the little lady laugh again. From then on, the two of them became strangers without fighting. The left guard garrison office, one of the 16 guards in the imperial capital's southern yamen who controlled the cardinal. Gongcheng, Chiefan Gate. The left supervisor's mansion is led by the Grand General Gongshi Qianzhong, who has some background. People who know it say that General Qianzhong, the gatekeeper, still has some skills. With the help of his ancestors' military achievements, he has gradually stood in his current position. Only those who don't know will say that this guy was originally a deputy envoy under the command of the Left Crane Control and Supervision Commander Dewey, who in the Left Crane Control Mansion. Together, they were in charge of the entire Left Crane Control Mansion, with a total of 22 people in total. The positions and offices of Zhuakonghe Prefecture's Konghe Supervisor and Right Fengchen Prefecture's Fengchen Prefecture Magistrate were established by our ancestors and were also the easiest places in the Imperial Yamen to climb the ranks of the powerful. It's a power field, it's a sales den. At that time, Gongshi Qianzhong was still a half-grown young boy, and in order to seek future wealth and prosperity, he spared no expense in spending 10,000 yuan to enter the left-controlled Crane Mansion. There's no way, the rumor of peach color is always more exciting than listening with golden fingers. So the idle people in the palace like to talk about things that are completely unrelated. However, even if its name sounds good, this place that cannot be put on the table is still a dirty and vulgar place that people despise. Zhuakonghe Mansion sounds beautiful, but behind the scenes, it has long been cursed by people. To make a living in such a place, one must be even more careful and be on guard to prevent someone from tripping or putting a trap on oneself. Since entering the palace, it has been a full 10 years since Gongshi Qian was appointed. At the age of 30, he finally stood at the position of Left Guard General. General of the Gatekeeper, ranked third in rank. Guard. In the second year of Longxua, the ancestor of Emperor Gaozong, the Right Guard Mansion was renamed as the Right Guard Guard, with one member and a third-rank official. In the second year of the Zhenyuan reign of Emperor Dizong, he was appointed as a senior official before the appointment of the general. He was in charge of the gate guards and registration of the palace city, and was fortunate enough to lead his troops to be the guardians of the yamen. Without a fixed number of personnel or responsibilities, it is often assigned to the imperial family, and is also used as a gift for military officials or as a demotion of military officials to scattered positions. And Gongshi Qianzhong walked up step by step with his own strength. He is not a member of the royal family, nor is he a gift from a military official, nor is he a demotion of a military official to a scattered official. Instead, he holds real power but is far from the center of power in the court. He is a descendant of a noble family, and a descendant of a meritorious hero who suffered national humiliation. Moreover, he is only a proxy recipient. Only he knows how much hard work and exhaustion there is behind this. How much filth there are, only others know. Even his only friend who can be confided in is only me, Pangmen, who is in charge. In addition to this level of identity, Gongshi Qianzhong also has two other identities for the convenience of opportunism. One is the governor of Jiangnan East Road and Fujian Road Fuzhou, under the rule of the pacification envoy, stationed in the Wuwei army, and a registered Taoist in the Xianyou temple in Qingxi, Quanzhou. He submitted a memorial to worship and worshipped under the door of the Fashinzhenren. One is a monk named by Ma Temple, the millennium first ancient temple in the capital city of Luoyang, and another ancient temple located in Luoyang, the Xianyou temple, both of whom have been appointed as temporary practitioners with hair. Such a great deal of effort and careful consideration is partly due to the belief in the Huang Lao Dao tradition and the establishment of Taoism as the national religion in the country. From the common people to the ancestors, there are many who have become disciples and practitioners. Taoism has a deep foundation in our country, with many royal relatives becoming monks and worshippers under the tutelage of high teachers and great virtues. Secondly, it is because there is another group of people who still believe in Buddhism. Empress Wu claimed to have Maitreya descended and even pushed the Taoist family down from the altar, dominating the religious leadership position of the empire. Gongshi Qianzhong has two sides, and both sides can benefit a little. Gongshi, born from 1,000 generations, is tall and handsome, with a dignified demeanor and abundant divine spirit. Especially the face with red lips and white teeth, clear eyebrows and eyes, bright facial features, and a handsome and delicate appearance that is somewhat enchanting, it is enough to cause harm to the country and the people, and it is a pity that it is a man. However, people who hold high positions at a young age are nothing more than two types of people. One has a big backing behind them, and the other has great skills. It is obvious that Gongshi Qianzhong is the latter. If it were really just superficial, then Gongshi Qianzhong would have died long ago in this ruthless deep palace. In the evening, the master wanted to take advantage of the time to grab a bowl of food from the gatekeeper's public kitchen. The next second, suddenly a black shadow flew towards you, stabbing the Gongshi Qianzhong gate with a straight sword. Gongshi Qianzhong's eyes lit up, and he quickly turned left to dodge this chest thrust. Not far away, the sound of fighting on this side immediately caught the attention of the duty officers and soldiers. A guard holding a long halberd, who was closest to the Gongshi Qianzhong, saw that it was his main official and shouted in fear. In a panic, he actually threw the long halberd directly out of his hand. Shoot at the back of the assassin wearing night clothes. Gongshi Qianzhong happened to see it, and in order to avoid being shot and accidentally injured, he quickly stopped and jumped aside. A group of guards rushed to the rear, each bowing and drawing arrows, surrounding the black-clothed man in groups, preparing to shoot the villain who dared to wield his sword and commit violence in the evening before dark. A large group of halberd-wielding guards stopped this man, the masked assassin in black. "Give me the bow and arrow." Master Qianzhong snatched the bow and arrow of a guard who rushed over and was very close to him. "Who is that? Tired of life? Dare to come to my guard's territory to seek death?" As death approached, the masked assassin burst into laughter, even to the point of tears streaming down his face. "What are you?" The assassin covered his face and smiled for a while before finally taking a breath, which led to such an endless question. Saying it's a problem is actually mockery, endless mockery. "So what are you? What qualifications do you have to guide me?" Gongshi Qianzhong still raised his bow and aimed. "You are just an orphan who no one loves. You help the tyrant. You deserve to die 10,000 times. Framing innocent people. Killing lives indiscriminately. Raging and ungrateful. You. Damn. Countless." Hula, more people also heard the noise here and ran over one after another. Tang is the sound of a full bow pulling the strings and then shooting out. Hard bow and straight arrow. Shoot out quickly. The man in black fell in response to the sound, and the sound of the bowstring ringing incessantly. Looking at the body lying on the ground, the assassin's body that had been shot by himself, Gongshi Qianzhong came to his feet and stood silently for a long time before speaking up. "There are many people who want to kill me and replace me. They think that my body is a vegetarian and occupies the pit without defecating. I can't even raise a big flag at the door of the toilet and tell them it's a toilet, can't I? I can't open the door and let them covet my life. To prevent this day, I'm also doing my best to live." Send the body back to the guard camp, I need to thoroughly examine this body. See who he really is. When the man in black scolded him, he recognized where this person came from. Absolutely sent by the senior brothers of the Zhaotian Holy Palace and the 7 evil gods. They want to scold him for being untrustworthy and betraying his master. In the past, Gongshi Qianzhong was ordered to lurk in the rebellious organization Zhaotian Holy Palace. It was also because he made great contributions in this mission that he was able to sit in his current position. But now, I am the general of the guard, what can you do with me? Any charge is just a scapegoat for others. Any organization that likes to label itself as various gods, saints, heavens, or great, exaggerates and promotes itself, and flaunts itself, is basically an exception-free cult. Chapter 1, Act 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At the same time, on the other side of the imperial city of Chang'an, the arsenal office. The always brightly lit arsenal. Wei Temple, Arsenal Office, official name. Namely, the 2 military depots of the capital of the Wei Temple, Chang'an and Dongdu, collected and safeguarded weapons for national use. The eastern capital was first established in the 25th year of the Kaiyuan reign of Emperor Xuanzong. Each has 1 commander and 2 officials. Zhenzongzhen, a pot-bellied commander of the arsenal, from the 6th rank, was a man with a strong and upright appearance. He had a generous face and a few strands of withered grass on his head that was about to fall off. He didn't wear an official hat or a fu head, and was just naked. He was guarding the night fire, nestled behind the table and desk in the corner, like a plump wriggling bamboo worm, drowsy. Green ant new fermented wine, red mud small stove. In the evening, the sky desires snow, and one can drink a cup without any. Today is his night shift, and he can't just run away, so he can only make do for one night like this. Unlike Zhenzongzhen, who is a unlucky guy, Gongshi Qianzhong is a peerless injustice. He has been idle all night. Born to be laborious, destined to drift and suffer for a lifetime. He is interrogating the prisoner while he is sleeping. The Nanya Jianmen mansion does not have the power to privately set up prisons, arrest and interrogate prisoners, which means they do not have the power to enforce the law, but only have the authority and obligation to defend and guard. Capturing someone in jail in the middle of the night is a bit of a dog taking a mouse. Meddling in one's own business. But there's no other way. Recently, the capital has not been peaceful. There have been rumors of ghosts at the feet of the emperor and in the imperial city of Beijing County. It is said to be haunted, and it is rumored that there are noses and eyes. It is even true that a few people died inexplicably due to this haunting incident. Due to the loud noise, the sage who had been living in the imperial palace for a long time even spoke up in court, demanding that the Dali temple come forward to investigate. In the middle of the night watchman of the palace patrol shop discovered a suspicious person hiding in a deserted corner, not knowing what he was doing because the nearest one was our gatekeeper's office. He eagerly sought out our gatekeeper's brother and arrested him. Someone has recognized it, but everyone says they don't know each other. Gongshi Qianzhong is quick-witted, but he is cunning. At this time, he is eager for success. He wants to take this credit and firmly believes that this person is the real culprit of the recent haunting in the palace city. He has not asked about the basic information of the suspect, and plans to use a set of big memory restoration techniques to drive ducks onto the shelves. Without saying a word, he will start at the duty room of the gatekeeper's mansion. This suspect, who was even worse off than the one who was on duty at night, didn't even have time to argue. He was bound up in various ways and had his hands and feet covered in an unknown handkerchief. He took off his clothes, stripped naked and shiny. Convenient for execution. It's not good to make a big fuss about this kind of thing. If it's true, he doesn't want to be taken credit for it. But if it's fake, he doesn't want to disturb everyone. Whether it's life or death depends on whether this guy's life is tough enough. If he can't hold on, he can easily find a straw curtain and throw it into the mountains, ditches, and fields outside the suburbs. So, when the rooster crowed for the third time and the eastern sky turned white with fish bellies, just before he was about to change shifts, this unlucky guy had already been led by Gongshi Qianzhong to take turns in battle. He was greeted with a piece of good meat all over his body, soaked in blood, and the wound torn by the whip was rolled up, curled up in his own pool of blood on the ground, motionless and dying. It's all like this, and their faces have already been smashed. These people, in order to resort to coercion and become prostitutes, have no scruples when they start. They hit wherever they hurt and where they get tricky. I want you to be sick even if you're not sick, and I want you to become black even if you're white. Even dead people, you have to bring me back to life. Seeing the person on the ground breathing in and out, in order to make it impossible for him to retract his confession, Gongshi Qianzhong first asked his confidant under his hand to pull out the boy's tongue, which was long and swollen with flesh and blood, and only half of it was pulled out. The prisoner fainted from the pain. Then, taking advantage of the opportunity, he handed over a freshly prepared confession, with ink still lingering in it, picked up a bloody arm that was exploding and bubbling with blood. Upon closer inspection, he could still see a pungent and bloody smell emanating from the wound and the blood flowing out. With the warm heat in his body, he pinched his middle finger and hastily pressed his fingerprints and made a bet on his blood. From beginning to end, Gongshi Qianzhong didn't even ask what this guy was called, and he was too lazy to ask. The so-called confession over there was ready. The so-called criminals have not even had time to admit their guilt, and have not even had time to open their mouths, which shows the ruthlessness and cruelty of Master Qianzhong. Of course, since I haven't even spoken yet, the so-called confession is certainly false. Any one of them, as long as you confess, is enough for this guy to drag out the door and dismember several times. The unlucky guy, he can't recognize it, but he can't deny it. So far, this hastily caught unlucky guy has no choice, he doesn't even have that opportunity, his mouth hurts and he can't open it, his mind is confused, and excessive blood loss causes his body to lose warmth. This unlucky guy is nestled in a pool of blood, trembling aimlessly. 10 or so big men took turns serving the gatekeeper for a whole night, leaving only one breath of unlucky guy hanging. Gongshi Qianzhong, who was supposed to be on duty at the Chiefeng Gate in the imperial city, spent the whole night interrogating the suspect he had arrested without closing his eyes. In order not to leak any information, Gongshi Qianzhong had other bad spies from Jingxian, who were responsible for patrolling the shops, replace the hero watchman who discovered the suspect and patrolled the shops, and also beat him overnight. On the contrary, he left the night watchman who was supposed to be on duty until dawn in the guard's office, letting him recover having slept well all night. He was indirectly placed under house arrest. The arsenal office of one of the imperial city's yamen, which cannot be reached by the 8 staff of the gatekeeper's mansion, the arsenal commander Zhenjiang heard the news from somewhere. Early in the morning, he ran over to find Gongshi Qianzhong and said, "Let's write a letter together and listen tomorrow. To put it simply, I want to share half the credit with my master. I'll take care of you." How did you say he had the face to say such things? The news still leaked out, and Gongshi Qianzhong was angry but had nowhere to get angry. He didn't know who spread the news and who to turn to for anger. However, getting the news so quickly this early morning, it seems that there are other people's ears and eyes in this gatekeeper's mansion. Otherwise, how could Zhenjiang's ears be so long? Under the heavy pressure of Gongshi Qianzhong, Zhenjiang sent someone to deliver the message to the inner court. He led his own people to drag the almost cold suspect into court. And Zhenjiang, Gongshi Qianzhong, refused to see him from beginning to end. So much so that he didn't know anything, he was still stuck there, like a haiku dwarf, like a living clown. Little did they know that Gongshi Qianzhong had caused a big trouble and also caused himself a huge trouble. Early the next morning. The whole Zhuke street is going crazy. There's a big deal going on at the Qian temple in Dongshi, Changnan. Early in the morning, the people of Changnan County were like crazy, and everyone was like a tide rushing towards the Qian temple in Dongshi. They spread a great news by word of mouth. At the foot of the imperial city, the Great Xian Temple is located in the suburbs of Changsheng County. The entire De Xian Temple is now crowded with people and shadows. The red flag is displayed, with a sea of people and mountains, not in years and not in festivals, not in hopes and not in achievements. This magnificent scene is truly rare. Saying it's a big deal is actually not a big deal, it can be considered as news. The younger brother of the Holy One, the current dynasty's noble, His Royal Highness the King of Yan, donated 10 million yuan at the Great Xian Temple. In order to achieve the stability of the country, the people to live in peace, and the 8 wilderness gods and demons to subdue the king's rule, without disturbing the people in our territory. In this way, he not only earned a good reputation of loving the people like a child, but also fiercely brushed his presence in front of his cousin. No matter what he thinks, since he has done so, he can still get a good reputation in the court and the public. But the money was actually spent. Chapter 1. Act 3. You are listening at novelfull.audio. How did you say he had the face to say such things? The news still leaked out, and Gongshi Qianzhong was angry but had nowhere to get angry. He didn't know who spread the news and who to turn to for anger. However, getting the news so quickly this early morning, it seems that there are other people's ears and eyes in this gatekeeper's mansion. Otherwise, how could Cenzongzhen's ears be so long? Under the heavy pressure of Gongshi Qianzhong, Cenzongzhen sent someone to deliver the message to the inner court. He led his own people to drag the almost cold suspect into court. And Cenzongzhen, Gongshi Qianzhong, refused to see him from beginning to end. So much so that he didn't know anything, he was still stuck there, like a haiku dwarf, like a living clown. Little did they know that Gongshi Qianzhong had caused a big trouble and also caused himself a huge trouble. Early the next morning. The whole Zhuke street is going crazy. There's a big deal going on at the Xian Temple in Dongshi, Chang'an. Early in the morning, the people of Chang'an County were like crazy, and everyone was like a tide rushing towards the De Xian Temple in Dongshi. They spread a great news by word of mouth. At the foot of the imperial city, the Great Xian Temple is located in the suburbs of Chang'an County. The entire De Xian Temple is now crowded with people and shadows. The red flag is displayed, with a sea of people and mountains, not in years and not in festivals, not in hopes and not in achievements. This magnificent scene is truly rare. Saying it's a big deal is actually not a big deal, it can be considered as news. The younger brother of the Holy One, the current dynasty's noble, His Royal Highness the King of Yan, donated 10 million yuan at the Great Xian Temple. In order to achieve the stability of the country, the people to live in peace, and the 8 wilderness gods and demons to subdue the king's rule, without disturbing the people in our territory. In this way, he not only earned a good reputation of loving the people like a child, but also fiercely brushed his presence in front of his cousin. No matter what he thinks, since he has done so, he can still get a good reputation in the court and the public. But the money was actually spent. The huge Great Xian Temple entered the open space outside the Sakya Mani Hall for the second time. Crowds crowded one another, rubbing shoulders, chest to chest, and buttocks pressed against the face. There are more people outside who are pushing in one after another. Everyone wants to witness this magnificent scene with their own eyes. The abbot of the Xian Temple is named Pu Shangren, a nearly 60-year-old, virtuous monk, who is the master of all the bald heads in He Temple. However, it is unclear whether the senior monk under his command had any knowledge of the act of hiding coquettish things in the golden house of the Weitua Hall last night, or rather, whether he had participated in it. He probably didn't know anything else and didn't participate, but early this morning, the King of Yan offered him 10 million yuan of fragrant oil in his hands as a tribute, which he should know. After all, this money had to pass through his hands in person. When the 3 masters, Temple Guanghong, Deputy Temple Guangho, and Metropolitan Supervisor Huai, came to report this matter, Venerable Pu also widened his eyes and couldn't believe it. No one has ever heard of someone donating 10 million yuan in one go since the construction of the Qian temple. Upon hearing that he was the younger brother of the current emperor and the nobleman of the imperial family, His Royal Highness the Prince of Yan, it made sense. After all, besides the royal family, who else can have the ability and qualification to donate incense money to the Qian temple, which is now equivalent to a royal temple? The vast Qian temple actually lacks nothing, just 2 words on his family's plaque. Imperial construction. As long as it can be recognized as a royal temple by the public, and in the future, it will climb the ranks of dragons and phoenixes, and strive for wealth day by day. It will no longer care about the people squeezing out a little bit of flesh and blood like offerings, like this. The current Qian temple has good money. How can the money for the fragrant oil of 3 melons and 2 jujubes from ordinary families be enough for the monks in the Qian temple who have seen the storms and waves? But this time's bold move also flashed their old wastes. 10 million yuan. That's 10 million yuan. 2 flowers bloom, each representing 1 branch. Last night, Master Qianzhong's absenteeism from his duties and his eagerness for quick success brought him great disaster and crisis. He has already half-stepped into the mud now. The matter of King Yan donating 10 million yuan to the Qian temple has left Master Chong with no time or thought to pay attention to it. The suspect, who was tormented by the Master Qianzhong and unable to express himself, could not dispel the concerns and suspicions of the sage. The confession he presented was also full of loopholes and incoherent preface. The testimony that doesn't match before and after is obviously copied. The sage wanted to get angry in court, but first of all, he was afraid of the positivity of this great general. Secondly, he happened to take this opportunity to block the mouths of the masses, the court and the people, With a cold face, he didn't get angry. Instead, he hastily ended the case and ended it in a confused manner. The sage who came to the later dynasty became more and more angry as he thought about it. The Minister of Rites in Bianjiao drafted a decree with harsh and intense language, criticizing Gongshi Qianzhong for his reckless actions, and secretly executing the so-called suspect to prevent any unexpected events. In private, he personally issued a central decree to Gongshi Qianzhong, a decree written by the emperor or without the approval of 3 provinces and 6 ministries. In the imperial edict and secret edict of the emperor, he was ordered to secretly investigate the case of haunting the imperial city within 3 months. There was no need to disturb the imperial city office and the people of the 2 counties. The capital was divided into Changnan and Wanyan counties, and he was given a Xiaoyao sword that had been stored in the arsenal and passed down by the royal family. There were 8 character inscriptions on the spine of the sword on both sides, with sword name Xiaoyao, Big Dipper 7 stars, on the front and Shaguang star handle, guarding the North Pole, on the back. With this sword, Gongshi Qianzhong can drive away all civil and military officials, soldiers, officials, nobles, treasuries, garrisons, and all armed forces within the capital city. For Gongshi Qianzhong, this is already a great honor and gift. The 2 faces of the emperor, the 2 edicts, one praising and one demoting, one stomping and one praising. For Gongshi Qianzhong himself, he caused himself a lot of trouble, but now he has stepped into a pile of dog poop with 1 foot. This unpleasant smell cannot be shaken off now. But at the same time, this is also a great opportunity. If he can seize it and hold it steady, then his future career, not to mention being promoted to the position of a general in charge of gatekeepers, is not impossible even for someone with a different surname to be granted a marquis. But if this matter is really not handled properly, according to the tradition of the sage being harsh and ungrateful, and governing harshly, Gongshi Qianzhong will definitely die a very miserable and unsightly death. In the suburbs of Changnan County, there is a grand Yan Wang Bai villa. Without the word villa, it is really called Bai. The king of Yan built his own business along the mountain and perched halfway up the mountain. The mountain terrain is terrifying and steep, with the double eaves and high corners of the palace towering and vast, and the grandeur of the building is magnificent. The pavilions, palaces, and pavilions are magnificent. So taking out this 10 million yuan is still a small problem for him. The king of Yan was the cousin of the current sage and served as the commander of Xianyou in Beidan Yuding. Moreover, the virtuous reputation of the king of Yan was well known throughout the entire court, and public officials. The king of Yan himself has been stationed in his fiefdom in the north of Shuafang for many years, and apart from paying tribute to the court, he rarely goes out. But this time, His Royal Highness the King of Yan, who was filial, respectful to the imperial palace, heard that the imperial capital was haunted. He donated millions to the great Xian temple, praying for blessings from heaven, and wrote a letter requesting permission to return to Beijing, Taiyuan, Shaanxi, the land of dragon prosperity, to build a temple and pray for blessings. All expenses will be borne by himself. Our dynasty was in full swing, with Chang'an as its capital, later known as Xijing, Zhongjing, and Xanadu, as its capital. Later, Luoyang was established as its eastern capital, Tokyo as its northern capital, Taiyuan as its northern capital, and Beijing as its subsidiary capital. Together with Chang'an, it is known as the Three Capitals. In this way, the officials and workers of the entire court, as well as the people of the world, all applauded and praised. The incident of being haunted in the capital had already caused trouble for two people, and at a loss, he let his younger brother take the limelight and lose face. Now, it's really worth agreeing or not agreeing. Yes, everyone in the world has turned their hearts to the King of Yan, and they have lost their dignity. If you don't agree, everyone in the world will despise your narrow-mindedness and even more will turn all your heart to the King of Yan. You will only end up being a bad person both inside and outside. Now that this Gongshi Qianzhong dares to voluntarily choose to enter the game with his own body, and wade through this muddy water, why not let him give it a try? If he doesn't have that ability, just buckle all the poop on him. Let him bear the blame. Let him be the scapegoat. If he really understands, I don't mind cultivating an obedient and useful canine tooth or running dog. Support him to become another sharp sword in my hand. Blame Master Qianzhong for his reckless behavior, and it's not a pity to die. Despite knowing that Gongshi Qianzhong forged evidence, fabricated false cases, and tortured cruel officials to extract confessions, the sage still accompanied him in acting. It can be said that neither of them is a good thing. How can we say that the upper hand leads to the lower hand? What kind of virtue is the owner, what kind of virtue is the dog they raise? Didn't you notice? Staying with the owner for a long time makes the dog and its owner look very similar. Bitch. It's just affectation. Bad guys. It is the seed of innate evil. Gongshi Qianzhong became a dazzling, manipulated, and controlled sharp blade, lifted high by others. This can also be considered as Gongshi Qianzhong voluntarily handing himself over, which is not involuntary. There is no difference between active evil and passive evil, it all depends on whether the victim forgives or not. If they forgive, they will choose to continue doing evil, but if they don't forgive, they will still choose to continue doing evil. Evil is not wrong, there is no reason or cost, what is wrong is only your incompetent and weak kindness. As for whether Gongshi Qianzhong's sharp blade will be used too much, it depends on whether he is strong enough. It is said that one can judge a person by literature. The King of Yan once wrote an essay describing what he saw, heard, and thought in a fiefdom. The Yu family is located in the north of the sea, in the heart of the four regions. The towering mountains rise to the north and the shape of the dragon gradually crouching, forming a steep mountain range in the south. The verdant scenery stretches far and wide. In the evening, the clouds and mist stop gathering, covering the vast yellow fields. The ice, moon, and frost grind the wind and bone, creating a magnificent and cool atmosphere. Thinking about this, how many heroes have been passed down? With a heart full of sincerity, courage, and the ambition to devour the world, one can bathe in the rain and be invincible. Looking back at the past generations, galloping horses and wind, snow covering the arrow of Su Shen, the search for the Zhou court's arsenal, the wilderness and fertile land, the steel of the weathered Li Ling, the hooves of the Han King Dewan, strike north with a straight sword. Since ancient times, people who have transformed into outsiders have consumed many meals of blood and tears, remained unyielding to the outside world, and arrogantly maintained themselves. Everything that exists here, resides in this place, is majestic in appearance, extremely brave in nature, opens up thousands of miles of land, resists enemies from outside, is who not husband. Not succumbing to the ravages of the wind, not afraid of the hatred of the barbarians, widely spread throughout the land, rooted and branching. The snow drifts for thousands of miles, freezing, and the jade is all white. The dome covers the Xianyou, and the pouring cover covers the mixed Egypt. Visiting the mountains, full of enthusiasm, leaving books here. December 10th, this is a poem written by the King of Yen himself, which is not easy to evaluate or guide, but it can be said that it is relatively easy to understand. The rest is really hard to say. Empowering Luntai to recommend friends and neighbors. 100 turns of feather clothing and Huxian dance, 1,000 turns of flowing clothes and fairy dances, after the clouds settle and the rain falls, with butterflies circling around. Wild geese and sinking fish are gathering at night, recalling the past, with a sigh of courage and determination. Wang travels to Yangguan, and the temple is planned and planned, white horse Danshu oath, heavenly army grasping military machinery, the mountains ravage 1,000 horses, and the earth moves with enchantment and shock, the yellow dragon rolls over the Gobi, and the raging sand flattens the Jialing. On a frosty day, the moon is slightly dewy, and the Ba woman travels 1,000 miles, the snow is cold, the dragons ride in chaos, and the flying tigers shine with flags and banners, dare not ask the heavens, join the army and wait for success, bitter water cannot be drunk, dare not walk upon the mountains, walking with crushed stones on the wheel platform, soldiers from the rear tower of the desert. Don Lin has not been seen for a long time, and at night, the scales and fur rush. Rolling armor requires double advancement, and in an instant, 8 formations can be formed. The bandit chieftain is despicable, and the Zisai chaotic Tianyong, with unwavering determination, my feathers break the hooves of a horse, unhairless and wild mouse laughter, angry and startled, Shuafeng Jun Lei froze, Bei Ming's soul mourns, 30 states in the western regions, with the rise of beacon towers in Yutian. The general entered the tiger's den and stationed the troops in Dingyuan. This is a poem written by Gongshi Qianzhong to prepare for the imperial examination. In my opinion, it is written a bit better than the Fu of King Yen. Chapter 1, Act 4. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the northeast corner of the country, there is a country facing every day. The sea power cannot be fully submerged, and the barbarian wind is always like Shanzang Luosha mansion, with mixed water and huge turtle saliva. Good to go to Wu Township, don't come back the following year. This dynasty Guanxiu's farewell to the Bohai Sea. The surging dark clouds have obscured the flow of time for thousands of years. The ants on the ground are submerged in the fine dust, living a mediocre life, never able to be idle. The soaring eagle in the sky cannot break free from the obstacles above the clouds. The wheels keep moving forward, just like fate has no turning back. The grass is merciless, but it lasts only one spring and one autumn. Countless tiny particles in the world form a grand road, and millions of insects and ants support the 5 mountains and 3 mountains. Seeing through the mud of Qian, we have walked step by step to the present day, in the heart of Emperor China, in the central city of the vast empire, on the side of the waterfront where the 8 rivers intersect, at the top of the Longzhou Plateau, in the capital of the empire, at the foot of the eternal Chang'an imperial city, listening to the sound of horse hooves stepping, listening to the towering palaces, and the heavy bell and drum sounds. The dizzying waves are steaming and rolling. And the distant place where the sea and sky meet is like a giant whale roaring into the sky. The chaotic night fell, and the pitch-black night seemed like a spider with its teeth and claws gnawing away, enveloping everything in the world. I've been haunted by nightmares lately, and I'm about to be tortured crazy. On the chaotic, undulating, and dimly lit ocean, mortals are like ants. On the shore, towering and towering, with towering eaves and painted pillars, lies the spire of the god of rewards pagoda. Amidst the thick and dark clouds, a huge monster is poking its head down. Its head is truly too big, except for its head, which breaks through the clouds and extends down. The rest of its body dances on top of the clouds, shadowy and indistinct. A giant monster bird's eye view of all living beings, in the chaotic and ignorant darkness of the night, beneath the sky, a bloodthirsty mouth roars down, exhaling bloody storms and towering waves. The eyes of the giant monster were like torches, spewing out anger and burning the sky. The giant monster is too big, covering the sky and sun, half the size of the sky. It roars at those who dare to challenge it. Humans are too small, even smaller than ants, as small as dust. Watching the sky churning with blood, it was like a misty evening sun, towering and terrifying. The giant monster howled with terror, its sound shook the 9 skies, birds fell into the sea, and children stopped crying. Don't be afraid. Not everything you can see with your own eyes now may be true. All of this is just an illusion manipulated by the mirage. Our demon-subduing town boss is doing the job of clearing obstacles. Below, in the crowd, Gongshi Qianzhong suddenly heard this sentence and woke up. He suddenly lifted his head and looked around, only to find that there was no abnormality around him. The sentence just now drifted from somewhere, as if it was ringing in his ears in an instant, or as if it didn't exist at all. People who couldn't distinguish between reality and reality were extremely uncomfortable. What's going on? We've already walked through that street, but we're still spinning in place. Yeah. I have a deep memory, I have already walked that path, but now. Did we all have an illusion, or was I already dead? I should have died here. Hurry up. Monsters have emerged, everyone hurry up and run for their lives. Amidst the crowd, various screams were heard, and people scattered and fled, hoping to stay as far away as possible from this dangerous area. Don't be chaotic, don't be chaotic. Gongshi Qianzhong hurriedly shouted, trying to stop the panicked and disorderly crowd. Then, a sneer came from the crowd, and a voice said, "Humph, stupid thing, this is an illusion set up by you ordinary people. Do you think you can resist my power to evoke the deepest fear in others' hearts? It's ridiculous." Gongshi Qianzhong trembled violently all over, feeling as if he had fallen into a 10,000 zhang ice cave. His whole body was cold, and a chill invaded his whole body. In that moment his head became much clearer, and Gongshi Qianzhong suddenly realized. Yes, this is my dream, just a dream. This is a dream belonging to Master Qianzhong, not a dream manipulated by monsters or mirages. Gongshi Qianzhong lowered his head and saw that not far from his feet lay the villagers who had been captured and eaten by monsters. One after another, they were densely packed, leaving Gongshi Qianzhong in awe. The death was peaceful, not as peaceful as the appearance after death. They seemed to have not died, still alive, even with their eyes open and smiles on their lips, looking at Gongshi Qianzhong. What's going on? Gongshi Qianzhong doesn't understand. Hee, kid, it seems like you're a smart person who quickly reacted. At this moment, the voice rang out in Gongshi Qianzhong's ear again, and then Gongshi Qianzhong felt someone slapping his shoulder. Who's there? He was frightened and suddenly looked up. The next second, Gongshi Qianzhong saw an unforgettable scene. A face, pressed against Gongshi Qianzhong's face, a pair of eyes full of resentment, a pair of sharp claws flashing a faint blue light, fiercely pinching his neck. Ah! Gongshi Qianzhong couldn't help but moan in pain, almost fainting. Gongshi Qianzhong wanted to struggle, but he found himself unable to exert his strength, unable to even move. Master Qianzhong saw that his body was slowly getting bigger and became the same monster as the man opposite. This is his shadow, this is his body. Unforgivable. Master Qianzhong roared angrily. These nightmares. Stay away from me. Gongshi Qianzhong's body began to expand and then transformed into a giant, 2 meters high, with a vigorous and surging force that made Gongshi Qianzhong gasp for breath. This was a dream, but Wu. Jiangnan Zhejiang East Road, Fujian Road Xianwei Prefecture, Fuzhou Governor's Office, Quanzhou Qingxi Xianyou Temple. Master Qian Chong. Word Dong. Worship to the Lord of Heaven and Earth, my teacher Wu Chang. Worship to the Lu Mountain ancestor Su Gongjiulang. Respect the Lu Mountain ancestor court. Worship to the Lu Mountain road law. Adhere to the principles of holiness, loyalty, and righteousness. Huai en Bao Kang. Only now in times of disaster. Begging Shizu to exorcise evil and bind evil spirits. Dust comes down to earth. Mother. Ghost. In a state of anger, Gongshi Qianzhong, who looked like a demon, couldn't help but curse and utter obscene language to the onlookers who were cheering and crying like ghosts and wolves, saying, Master Ghost. To General Lu Fanjin. Holy Decree. The decree says. Under the door. Wei Yu, the ruler of the heavenly kingdom, did not bully the weak and the inferior. However, today there is a country named Wenu, who repeatedly violated the power of heaven and killed our government troops, without knowing how many. To be humble and revered, to cage the heavens with the earth, to overthrow the heavens and earth, to pour out the waters of the 4 seas, to make ministers disobedient and nations disobedient. If the national character is lost, it will be driven away and humiliated, and the enemy will be killed to the end. Therefore, this edict is issued to the imperial court, and also to the world. Before the autumn festival in September, all feudal lords will be informed, and soldiers will be recruited to the lower border. They will be handed over to the imperial court to oversee the construction of military towers and warships. The imperial court will lead the Deputy General, Gongshi Qianzhong, Deputy General Mao Ping, and Deputy General Lu Qiangdu, and regulate the overall management to quell the troubles of Japanese slaves and bandits. This edict. The book is made like the right, please bring it. We will implement it outside of the production and payment system. Your Majesty is about to use force against the Japanese slaves. The sea is uneven, and there are many Japanese pirates. We need to send a good general to sweep through the sea. Clear the obstacles for Lu Fanjin's army to advance. Under the imperial decree. Starting today, General Gongshi Qian of the Right Divine Martial Guard will reorganize and establish the demon-subduing town Bosi, along with 3,000 soldiers, to eliminate the Japanese invasion, sweep out the 4 seas, and await the arrival of the Wangshi. Be the vanguard. Carry out military campaigns to drive away Japanese pirates. Gongshi Qianzhong, the Grand General of the 3rd Rank Guard of the National Court. It seems that the court has made up its mind that he will form the demon-subduing town Bosi. Chapter 1, Act 5. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This morning, someone reported that an unnamed body was found abandoned in a small fishing village near the Imperial East Sea Navy's base. This small fishing village is adjacent to the Empire's East China Sea Navy ship construction, training, maintenance and support camp. Looking up from a high altitude, the entire Navy camp is at a glance. Due to the fact that the deceased was located near the headquarters of the Navy camp, the situation became very chaotic. Gongshi Qianzhong, who had just been serving as the Bosi in Fumo town for less than a month, had to immediately order the blockade of information and carry out autopsy and identification work on the unidentified body. Because there was no such talent at hand, Gongshi Qianzhong could only send someone to the county to find a grave worker to come and examine the deceased. No one knew that at this moment, a large army of the empire was pressing heavily towards the northeast, thousands of miles away from the back of the Gongshi, preparing to attack the city. Above the heavy sky, dark clouds blocked the brightness of the sun layer by layer, and the light and shadow shining on the earth are also block by block. On the towering blue sky with layered clouds, a huge, winged dragon-shaped figure is soaring through the clouds and swirling, casting a shadow of ing long. Beat the drum with its boring, and actively engage in military action. In the city of Tugua, the army marches southward alone with 1,000 troops. From Sun Zhejiang, Pingchen, and Song. If I don't return, I will be worried. Where do you live? Lost its horse. In pursuit of it. Under the forest. Life and death are vast, talk to Zhicheng. Hold your son's hand and grow old together with him. In the vast expanse, I live without it. Yu Jie Sun Shi, do not I believe Shi, the ancient war song, which is simple, rhythmic, and melodious, precisely confirms the sorrowful tears of the soldiers in the army in town facing the upcoming large-scale war and the fate of life and death, as well as the tragic oath of not following each other, as well as the endless unwillingness and helplessness that soldiers shoulder while gritting their teeth, as well as the love for life and death of their comrades and the reluctance to part with their comrades in the same robe. The evening stars fall, and the darkness sinks. Yin and yang are reversed, and all things are impermanent. All kinds of evil in the world are burned in the flames of fire. The piercing north wind pierced through the bones, and the surging cold and murderous aura from the East China Sea rushed towards us. Commander Qianzhong of the Bosi Division in Fumo Town was ordered to enter the Imperial Navy Sea Training Camp to provide pre-war supplies, troops, and provisions for the naval camp, assist the Imperial Navy in future water and landing operations, and maintain confidentiality for military purposes. But this time, what happened under his nose must be resolved as soon as possible. Gongshi Qianzhong sent someone to ride a fast horse and invite a tomb from the county to conduct an autopsy on this unnamed corpse, to determine the cause of death. It would be best if he could also have his true body verified at the same time. As a result, when the coroner arrived at the scene and saw that the body had decayed to this extent, it was a bit difficult to verify his true identity. The grave worker put on a face mask to prevent the odor of the corpse, had ginger slices in his mouth, put on gloves and sleeves, squatted next to the corpse, and began the autopsy. A dirty yellow and black dried corpse. The skin and flesh of the entire skull have peeled off, revealing a shiny, grayish-white skull. It's a wonder that dry bodies can be found by the seaside. The tombstone murmured casually, and Gongshi Qianzhong heard it and also remembered it in his heart. There's not much wind today, but it's just very cold. Fortunately, this is an open wilderness, and people die relatively long ago. There is not too much stench. The weather in late January and early February, with a hint of madness in the chilly seaside. The majority of the head and neck, except for the top of the head, have completely turned white, and have been bitten by mosquitoes and flies, making it impossible to identify a human. The remaining hair on the top of the head does not look like a Central Plains person, but rather like a southern person with a cut-off hair or tattoo or other exotic species. The body has transformed into a giant, the abdomen has swollen the heaviest, and the genitals have completely. The legs naturally spread apart, and the skin on the soles of the feet has completely peeled off. If it weren't for a thin snowfall a few days ago, the body of this corpse should now be covered in maggots. The whole body appeared gray-white and dirty brown, and most of the body's face was eroded by maggots, making it unrecognizable. If it weren't for the male utensils in the crotch, the people present could hardly distinguish the gender of the deceased. The time of death should be within half a month, but now it is early February, with residual snow on the ground and broken ice on the shore. Cold weather can effectively preserve the deceased's condition before death, thereby delaying the decay and deterioration of the body. So, the exact time of death needs to be speculated a little further forward, which means that the deceased may have died a month ago. A month ago, Gongshi Qianzhong came here less than a month ago. That is to say, during this period. The time of death has been determined. But the other information about the deceased is very vague. Looking at the teeth of the deceased exposed to the air and the degree of wear and tear, perhaps. It should be. Maybe. It's a middle-aged person. Yeah, but after measuring the height of the deceased, it was only a little over 1 meter. Gongshi Qianzhong even suspected that Chen Min had miscalculated the age of the deceased. Is it possible that the deceased was an underage child? Then he was scolded and said, "The child's bones are not closed or open, can Master Qianzhong not see it?" For the first time being fiercely scolded by the same person one after another, Gongshi Qianzhong surprisingly felt some confusion and panic. Attention returned to the face of the deceased, which had a wide open mind. The two huge deep holes were the eye sockets. With a hearty laugh on his face, there were 2 rows of big front teeth that had already rotted away. Just looking at the teeth, even if the deceased died from suffocation, it is now so weathered that nothing can be seen. Can't we really determine where the deceased came from? Is he a local? Gongshi Qianzhong persisted in asking. The grave work this time is called Chen Mingong. He looked up and then lowered his head again. That gaze, that expression, as if saying everything but not anything. Even if you lose face in public, Gongshi Qianzhong can't say anything more. Gongshi Qianzhong looked around and said, "There are no black or red blood stains permeating the ground, no signs of dragging, no weapons, and no obvious injuries on the deceased's body. Even the time we found this corpse is not right." Yunmengji, the deputy general of Gongshi Qianzhong, quickly responded, "Our place is by the sea. Just now, Master Chen also said that we shouldn't have seen dry corpses here." Another deputy general, Voldemoro, also followed suit and said, "The deceased had no trace of clothing on his body, even barefoot. But there were no weathered fabric strands around him, so this should not be the place where he died. But it's the abandoned corpse site." Gongshi Qianzhong said, and everyone looked at him. This statement was unreasonable but very reasonable. Chen Mingong finally finished the autopsy work, stood up, and then cast a rare approving gaze at Gongshi Qianzhong, who made the decision. "Who killed him? Why did you insist on throwing the body here? Who was the deceased? It seems that his hairstyle still exists, and he is not a local. So why was he killed?" One question after another from Yunmengji, and everyone in the room fell silent. "That's your business. I need to go back and report to the county magistrate, and bring back the body. Do you have any objections, generals?" Chen Mingong spoke straightforwardly, without clinging to the power or fearing dominance. Gongshi Qianzhong has long been accustomed to this person's attitude of eating soft rather than hard. "Since that's the case, you can take the body back by yourself. But here, in our military and important area, it's a matter of court secrets. You know, don't spread it everywhere. As for this body, even if it falls from the sky, it has nothing to do with Gongshi Qianzhong." Chen Mingong. "I naturally know this. I have been working in the public gate for so many years, and I still understand this rule. Outside the mountains and rivers, I stand still." A grave worker, a county government official and a petty official, dared to publicly ridicule the court generals. The 2 deputy generals of Gongshi Qianzhong, Yunmengji and Fumoluo, were about to turn their backs and were warned by Gongshi Qianzhong's gaze, forcing them to retreat to the back. As soon as the people from the county government left, Gongshi Qianzhong immediately summoned his subordinates to organize a court hearing before dinner. Fumura and Yunmengji will always unconditionally follow the main general, the master of the shogunate, and the great general, Gongshi Qianzhong. Most of the others, like these 2 people, only follow the lead of the main commander. Because he did not dare to make a big deal, the public division Qianzhong ordered to send sentry horses to investigate in secret, and sent secret soldiers to disguise and hide around the area where the dead were found. Especially in the small fishing village, they searched one by one. If any suspicious people were found, they could be arrested on the spot and brought back. After the interrogation, they would decide whether to release or stay. However, one thing to explain is that Gao Yao, the deputy envoy of the Imperial Academy and eunuch of the Imperial household, as well as the ambassador of the Bohai Sea Road, who was sent here by the court, is also present. In order to give an explanation to the court, he requested Gao Yao to submit a letter to the court requesting assistance. Chapter 1, Act 6. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. And Gao Yao's suggestion to Gongshi was to immediately borrow people from Donghai Dao to enter the academy and borrow their black clothes to enter the academy. Du Wanrua, the military governor of the East China Sea, had a private armed force under his command known as the Iron Encirclement Eagle Yang, dressed in black. You can say it well, the people from your military academy and the Imperial Academy meet every day and it's like pinching each other. How dare I let you meet? Gongshi Qianzhong had no choice but to laugh it off. Everyone also thought that this topic had been dropped. After all, these things themselves have nothing to do with Gongshi Qianzhong. He is a military general stationed in the East China Sea and not a court advisor, so he doesn't need to handle such matters, let alone understand what a conflict between the court and the feudal lords is. Within 2 days, the capital of Changnan, located thousands of miles away, was ordered to purchase supplies, recruit soldiers, transport grain and supplies, procure and customize armored warships capable of fighting on the sea and withstanding strong winds and raging winds. They also wrote and summoned the newly appointed court chief, Bohai governor, and General Lu Fanjin from nearby provinces, towns, armies, and military departments to send troops to aid. He also heard about it from the eunuch of the Ministry of Internal Attendance next to the Holy One. As soon as General Fu heard about it, he immediately wrote a running letter to Du Wanrua, who was serving as the governor of Chanyuting, the governor of the East China Sea, and the Grand General in Yuzhou. He borrowed his prestigious black robe to assist the Grand Master in handling the case. Indeed, human calculation is not as good as divine calculation. I didn't want General Shang to know, but I still let him know. However, on the evening of General Shangjuan's reply, Gongshi Qianzhong learned that 30 elite soldiers and brothers under his command had been killed, all of whom died in an unfortunate way. Gongshi Qianzhong was immediately shocked for no reason. What does this mean? Kill people and silence them. Why don't you just kill me? Demonstrations. Warning. 30 people were killed in a row, and the commotion was too loud. Did the killer ever think that if they failed, they would also die tragically? Revenge. Why are they all targeting my own soldiers? Can we say that the military academy has already started to take action against me? The eunuchs of the Imperial Academy and the military officers and staff of the Imperial Academy are destined to compete with each other in terms of their powers. The people from the military academy may not be very good to us border generals either. I have ascended to the position of demon-subduing town boss, can't they bear it anymore? Gongshi Qianzhong's head was suddenly filled with question marks. I only have 3,000 soldiers in my hands, with the title of Bosijeng in Fuzhou town on my head, just for one person to sweep the sea. I will help General Lu Fanjin's army advance and clear obstacles. Eliminate Japanese troubles, sweep the 4 seas, and wait for the king's army. In the future, I will be the vanguard. I will mobilize troops to drive away Japanese thieves. The two were ordered to lead troops to the naval training camp of the Imperial Navy, providing pre-war supplies, troops, and food support for the camp's main army base, assisting the Imperial Navy in future water and landing operations. The 3 naturally worked to maintain confidentiality for military purposes. From this perspective, none of this has anything to do with their military academy. But those people from the military academy are so impatient now that they want to remove me. It's not necessary. Isn't it necessary to make such a big fuss known all over the world? In this way, the gains are not worth the losses. Is it because I took their power? Divide their finances and taxes. Upon hearing about this, the 2 confidants of Gongshi Qianzhong, Fumoluo and Yun Mengji, were both shocked and then furious, both believing that someone was secretly causing trouble. Who can cause trouble? Who dares to cause trouble? Don't talk nonsense. If there is no evidence, don't just talk nonsense. Gongshi Qianzhong drank them off in public and went crazy without stopping. But now, my subordinates have lost 30 confidants, a whole personal guard. Gongshi Qianzhong did not immediately jump up and turn against Gao Yao, but instead sent the thoughtful Yan Mengji to secretly monitor Gao Yao. He did not have any concrete evidence that Gao Yao had actually acted against him, nor did he have any leverage to argue with the other party or the entire military academy behind Gao Yao. In order to avoid unnecessary suspicion, Gongshi Qianzhong ordered Yan Mengji to investigate the unnamed body case in the fishing village for the investigation room without leaving the military camp. In this way, Gao Yao couldn't know what Yan Mengji was doing. Yan Mengji took the opportunity to present his own sister Yanji to his main general, Bosi Zhang of Demon Subduing Town, the Imperial East China Sea Naval Training and Martial Arts Training Camp and the Deputy Chief of Shipbuilding Camp. Yanji gave Yanji to Gao Yao to stabilize him, and then used Gao Yao's status, reputation and power to attract the eyeliner of other military academies in the future. So we don't have to be stared at so badly by those eunuchs in the Imperial Academy anymore. In order not to be outdone by Yan Mengji, although he was one step slower, he also knew how to curry favor with the main official and quickly knelt down to show his loyalty. I am a humble general with no wealth, and my family has no surplus wealth. Only with this body of flesh and blood can I become the general's vanguard. After speaking, Fumoluo bowed and sang a promise, with a sincere expression on his face. Okay, I need you now. From now on, you will be my personal leader in the guard, personally protecting my general's tent. Yes. Voldemoro straightened his spine and agreed with a sigh. It seems that overnight, the fierce battle flag no longer fluttered, and the blood droplets on the sword also condensed. An arrow on the string must be fired. However, before Gongshi Qianzhong could figure out the answer to this question, he was urgently summoned by the small eunuch of the Imperial Academy to the city gate tower. He is Gao Yao from the Imperial Academy and Gao Gong from the Imperial Academy. Behind him is the entire Imperial Academy, the court, and the Holy One. He still couldn't resist Gao Yao's invitation. Waiting upstairs, because tonight there is a fleet of ships approaching the port from the southern sea area for inspection. At this critical moment, Gao Yao unexpectedly invited Gongshi Qianzhong to climb high and observe the stars. Don't daydream. I don't have a home, my home is in the palace. I won't betray my master, you don't have to daydream either. As a eunuch, Gao Yao's voice was hoarse, deep and melancholic, like an abandoned woman. Gongshi Qianzhong laughed heartily and said, "State affairs are of utmost importance. I dare not think or think." Gao Yao Bai gave him a white glance and continued to speak in an abandoned manner, "What are you sending a girl over for? She's just afraid that I might have done it, afraid that I might have killed you like a sheep or a dog." Being told a heart-wrenching story in person, Gongshi Qianzhong was so angry that his teeth itched, but there was no more joy or anger on his face. "I'm just afraid that Gong Gao Gong will stay in the army for a long time and feel lonely. He will run and destroy my soldiers." Gongshi Qianzhong said with a hint of mockery and lightly retorted. Gao Yao didn't get angry, but instead laughed heartily and said, "That little girl looks quite lively. She wasted her time on me. I didn't move, but she entered my tent and even uploaded her name, which didn't sound good. I'll make the decision, you marry someone else." "What?" Gongshi Qianzhong couldn't help but wonder which school this was and which school it was. "I was sent by the court and also by the Holy One. I came not only for the Imperial Academy, but also for the Holy One. We are not only good at collecting wealth, I also have to take responsibility. There are only two of us here, and in front of you, I don't need to lie to you. Your people were not killed by me, and the body in the small fishing village was not done by me, at least not by my people. You don't need to prevent me from engaging in this kind of intrigue. I have no roots. Rooted in Changnan. Not here. What do I need those external belongings for?" Having finished speaking, Gongshi Qianzhong also fell silent. "By the way, are there any clamshell boats in those merchant ships?" Gao Yao suddenly leaned in, pretending to be nervous and whispered a reminder. It was only then that Gao Yao realized that he was talking about those merchant ships. After this instigation, Gongshi Qianzhong was suddenly shocked and said, "How dare they carry private goods?" This time it was a group of merchant ships carrying goods to a nearby port for transshipment. The red flag displays a sea of people, and 1,000 sails race across the colorful clouds of a bustling port. The large ship filled with cargo will unload the cargo here, and then the empty ship will depart and return to the ship's home country. The draft of a large ship operating at sea is too deep, and to enter inland waterways, it is necessary to change to a smaller ship. The small boats waiting here will transport various types of goods unloaded from the large ships in batches to the surrounding river ports of the inland river. This kind of work is not pleasing to the eye. But this happens to be downstream of the naval training and warship supervision camp, so it's better to choose it next to a military stronghold. It's not easy to drive them away directly, flatten and demolish the port, so we have to wait for them to transport the goods again and then close the port. Why didn't these merchant shipping ports stop before? Why can the shippers in these ports continue to exercise their role? How about you ask, they, to hand it over to the Military Supervision Institute? How much should we offer? By the way, I would like to ask Gongshi Qianzhong and various military commanders who have taken these merchants who dare to venture around by relying on a merchant ship. The bad thing is that they are too free and the crew composition is too complex. Coastal merchants, wealthy servants, hired swordsmen, exiles, laborers, even Japanese slave ronins, temporary hired workers from coastal countries and various regions. It is difficult for you to clearly state the beliefs and origins of these people. The vast majority of them are homeless refugees who have lost their land, and even fugitive criminals and exiles. If you talk to them about your home country and faith, it is delusion. If you talk to them about interests, in their eyes, you are a part of the interests. Chapter 1, Act 7. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This is a group of business organizations that have no roots, and are brave in the wind and waves. They are fearless, constantly moving in and out, going back and forth through the manufacturing of warships, military exercises, and shipyards and ports in the East China Sea. Every move of the East China Sea Navy is seen by them, and any action is not a secret. Gongshi Qianzhong was anxious and planned to write a letter together with Gao Yao, requesting the court to take action to ban and revoke the merchant trading dock built downstream of the East China Sea Navy garrison. However, for a moment, Master Zhang couldn't figure it out, thinking that he was eager for good business from others and was itching to intervene. Gongshi Qianzhong was infuriated by him and said, "My Gao Gong. Although they are just merchants, it is precisely because they are only merchants. The eyes of merchants only have interests, no country. They are all people who are used to licking blood with knives. They go in and out all day, back and forth, passing through the shipyard and harbor where I build and conduct military exercises for ships. Every move of the East China Sea Fleet is seen by them, and any action is not a secret at all. Just like a stripped orange, there is no secret at all. And there is also a question that everyone has overlooked. How did the Japanese slave people know our strategic intentions before their own people did? Unless the Japanese slaves have been monitoring us from the beginning. I am writing a letter to General Shang, you are writing a letter to the military academy, and we jointly write a letter requesting the court to abolish this commercial port. Otherwise, not only the enemy, but anyone could know our movements. Can you imagine yourself being monitored? Can you imagine yourself hiding in a tent, cultivating your character and writing a few lines of poetry, and they will all come to a clear end in the blink of an eye? Gao Yao straightened his back and felt a gust of evil wind penetrate the thick cloth tent on the third floor, causing his hair to stand on end. He had never thought about this issue before, and if it were true, the entire East China Sea Navy would have leaked out long ago. Okay. I'll listen to you this time. This is a secret. This time it's just the two of us. I will find 2 confidants to escort the letter to Chang'an quietly. Before that, it must be kept confidential. I understand. We must never let the East Sea Navy live under the noses of others. I want to see who dares to covet us. Okay. I support you. It was already a tumultuous autumn, and a person died in a small fishing village near the Shueisha camp. Now, Gongshi Qianzhong has lost a personal guard of 30 people. I haven't figured out what happened in the front foot yet, but something happened in the back foot. If he didn't find a way to investigate the case, he was afraid that he would lose his position as the demon-subduing town boss official. Annong Protectorate, North Huizhou, Hokkaido, Taiwei City. He is one of the 12 lieutenants of the Iron Siege known as the Iron Siege Eagle Yang, and is responsible for clearing all obstacles for him in the shogunate of his father. My name is Zhen, the Qian who wins the town's life. Originally, it was specially dispatched by the king to monitor the feudal lords and vassals of the world. But because this is a family law that cannot be made public, I was arranged to be the legitimate eldest son of His Royal Highness the King of Han and the personal guardian of the Han heir, Morongzhenlong, for a full 3 years. Later, the royal family brought back the small county lord who was said to have been born to His Highness Han Wen and his wife, and I became the guardian of the small county lord again. Originally, she was just a personal aide and military deputy of the prince's mansion. In order to protect the safety of the small county lord, she could only guard her step by step. In order to investigate the unnamed corpse case in the fishing village this time, the general really called in the 12 most elite members of the Anda Protectorate, General Du Wanrua's shogunate, and also one of the many adopted sons carefully trained by General Du Wanrua, nicknamed Young General Ingzhenming. The people under General Du Wanrua were not only carefully selected and trained as the 12 iron guards from the army, but also the most famous, black-clad imperial guards under his shogunate, just like the Wei Boya soldiers and Holu soldiers, both well-known and notorious. Originally responsible for defending and monitoring the lives of these foreign kings in the Han prince's mansion, Ingzhenming was sent to this place by an official's order. Externally, this place is called the headquarters of the Xianlong army in Donggang, Bohai Road. In fact, it is the location where the Bohai Road Jidushi, Xian Kondo envoy, current court chief, and General Lu Fanjin stationed their troops. The actual construction purpose here is to provide a naval logistics camp for the East China Sea Fleet, which includes ship construction, training, maintenance support, dock parking, naval personnel training, garrison, weapon and grain storage support, military equipment maintenance, and replenishment. In order to win a war, it is necessary to accumulate all the strength, including troops, taxes, provisions, horses, laborers, equipment, cloth, material transportation, logistic supply, and even more. In fact, what a country needs is not population, but manpower, all the manpower that can be mobilized. Suburban, Huai Garden. At the banquet of a group of young ladies and gentlemen, Gongshi Qianzhong, who was a grand third-rank general of the Heavenly Dynasty, was naturally invited to be present. The case that needs to be handled also needs to be handled, and the dinner that needs to be eaten also needs to be eaten. Gongshi Qianzhong, styled Dong. The protagonist of today's banquet is a second-generation official, whose father is Duan Ganwen Lin, the deputy commander of the Yan'an Jiedu and the general of Qihu. This kid was originally serving as the deputy general of the Hanlin Guard in the court, named Duan Gan Changmian. This time, I came here with Master Qianzhong to guild. I have been here for a year and a half, and after returning, my resume looks good. Speaking of it, it sounds great. I have stayed at the Donghai Naval Camp before. Have you stayed before? Have you ever seen such a large fleet of Chinese Navy ships elsewhere? In the future, when I enter the government, changing to a more relaxed and prestigious official position is not an easy task. And the vast majority of those present were officers and family members of the local garrison. Rich people's banquets can be held anywhere, including homes and gardens, as well as military camps and wilderness areas. And he doesn't know which brigade of the Hanlin Guard and which deputy general of the team this section has been working for a long time. This section has 2 younger brothers who have been working for a long time. Dugu Jinjin and Jima Qingjin. They are also children of wealthy families. Gongshi Qianzhong and Jima Qingjin were former colleagues in the Control Crane Mansion, and their relationship was good, but Jima Qingjin had a good relationship with anyone. It is precisely because of Jima Qingjin's social flower persona that he enjoys eating everywhere. The position of Gongshi Qianzhong is awkward, not only because of his awkward sitting position, but also because in people's eyes, this guy seems to have only obtained a dispensable, leisurely position because he was born with a beautiful vase, like good skin, which is also very embarrassing. Gossip and gossip did not dampen his appetite, let alone the banquet that the second generation of officials invited him to. No matter how much they look at him from the bottom of their hearts, even though their eyes are rolled over, there will be no malicious intent on the surface, because everyone is a guest and it is not easy to brush off the owner's will. The room was filled with various curtains, hats, tassels, flowing sleeves, ladies of noble families, young gentlemen, and gentlemen. Long sleeves are good at dancing, money is good for business. Gongshi Qianzhong sat behind a row of tables and tables on his right hand, eating and drinking on his own. Gongshi, with 1,000 drops of alcohol, does not drink. Others are busy wandering in the middle of banquets, drinking and socializing, while others are busy trying to hook up with young ladies from good families. He only lowers his head to eat cakes, various pies, and steamed cakes. The banquets of this wealthy family are boring and long, but we can't help but go. The long night was long, and drinking and eating meat alone was boring. Jima suggested a sword dance competition. Judging male and female based on swordsmanship is considered a good way to win. Everyone is well aware that Jima is going to host tonight's banquet, as the Deputy General of the Feathered Forest Guard, Duan Gan, has always been a skilled swordsman. Even if it were really a comparison, today in front of this young man, no one would be able to snatch his attention. As a result, the host of tonight's banquet, Mr. Duan, won the first prize, with Mo Qingjin taking second place and another young man surnamed Duanmu taking third place. Gongshi Qianzhong had no intention of competing with others for the lottery. From beginning to end, he just lowered his head, not ashamed to look up, but his mouth never stopped. Even the maidservants standing behind him, who were serving him, had already separately added 3 meals to him. He didn't even see the disdainful gaze of the person next to him. The duck pie tonight is really delicious. I didn't expect that making duck meat into a pie wouldn't work. During the conversation, everyone in the room had already started the second wave of urging each other to drink. Jima Qingjin, holding a cup of kumquat wine, ran over humbly and deliberately urged Gongshi Qianzhong to compete in a sword dance. Gongshi Qianzhong patted his plump belly with satisfaction and shook his head. Jima Qingjin pointed in the direction of the banquet host, and Duan Gan, who had been sitting upright for many years, raised a cup of wine and looked at Gongshi Qianzhong from afar, toasting and congratulating him. Since that's the case, it's not easy to refuse anymore. Gongshi Qianzhong stood up, crossed his hand and sang a promise to Duan Ganlang, crossed his hand and bowed to everyone present, politely pulled out the swinging sword bestowed by the sage, and made a stunning appearance, stunning everyone present. Chapter 1, Act 8. You are listening at novelfull.audio. De Co Lois Ara Trong Quatrin Lay Text. Chapter 1, Act 9. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As soon as the thought arose, Gong Sherdong did not wear a archer, pronounced the same as shooting, which originally meant a tool used to tie the strings when pulling a bow and archery. It was placed on the shooter's right thumb to protect it from being strangled by the strings. He did not provide protection, nor did he use feather arrows. Instead, he forcefully pulled the treasure bow like a full moon, only hearing a muffled sound of dong. The next moment, he could only hear a female maid from 30 meters away from him scream out in agony, and unexpectedly fell down. Surprisingly, it really collapsed. Surprisingly, it really collapsed. I didn't shoot an arrow. It's clear that the empty bow is fully drawn. Empty bow cast. How? Maybe. Stretching the empty bow 3 times in a row like a full moon, the opposite side also let out screams one after another, falling one by one in front of everyone. The onlookers, Prince's son, couldn't help but take a cold breath and turn to look at Gongshi Qianzhong. However, they saw that his right thumb, which was pulling the bowstring backwards, had already been torn apart by the 3 consecutive bullets of the bowstring. His entire right hand was instantly bleeding, and the middle part of the bowstring was also stained with blood, dripping crimson liquid. The young master Duanmu paid special attention to the left tiger's mouth pushed forward by Gongshi Qianzhong, and sure enough, it was also scratched. Gongshi Qianzhong saved all the servants and maidservants with the story of the startled bird and the frightening sound of pulling the bow. These servants were all frightened by the sound of emptiness. The first person was indeed scared unconscious by the empty voice, while the people behind were scared and their legs softened by the first person's reaction. These maids and servants were already scared out of their wits. As soon as they heard the sound of the bowstring breaking through the air, their legs softened and they collapsed to the ground in fear. Master Dong turned around and saw a pig liver-colored face standing behind him. Can't we be angry if we fail to establish our authority and repeatedly ask outsiders to snatch our own attention? Gongshi Qianzhong has no direct interest in him, so he is not afraid of his betrayal. However, he wants to do his best to protect these people who are considered playthings and gamblers. He then spoke up, "Does what Xiaolang said before count? How can I answer this kind of sentence? It's not that I didn't take it, not to mention it. But now, it's hard to get off guard. If I turn around and refuse, it's like hitting my own face. I've worked hard all night, and I just want to earn more face for myself." Duangan's face changed from black to green for years, but he had to endure this bitter fruit and bit his back teeth, nodding silently, as if admitting it. Why is it said that he is biting his back teeth? Because it can be seen from his moving cheeks and chin. The crowd laughed and dispersed in unison. After all, Gongshi Qianzhong is a guest. After all, if everything goes wrong like this, everyone still needs to give face to the master. But now, Gongshi Qianzhong has become famous and established himself in the circle of these princes and grandsons. Gongshi Qianzhong did not intend to get a bargain and still behave well, so he told the manager of the owner's house and said goodbye. After leaving the gate, the head of Duangan's family chased after him with a large group of people. Gongshi Qianzhong noticed the noisy footsteps behind him, and his first reaction was that Duangan was going to have a falling out with him for years. Gongshi Qianzhong secretly clenched the cold hilt of the waving sword at his waist and slowly turned his head. But the result was that Gongshi Qianzhong's jaw almost fell to the ground in shock. The head of the Duangan family had caught up and handed over a total of 20 servants and maidservants, 10 men and 10 women, to Gongshi Qianzhong. These servants were all just won back by Master Dong at the banquet using the bird of terror trick. However, Master Ku Dong was puzzled by this inexplicable scene and Master Zhang said, "What does delivery mean?" The manager kept wiping his sweat and laughing as he said, "My little boy has said it. This gentleman saved these despicable people with a clever and cunning plan. Since the gentleman has a kind heart and intends to keep their lives, our little boy will give them all to him. We don't want them. In the future, whether these servants die or live has nothing to do with the Duan family. The Duan family will not regret handling them as he pleases." What? Master Dong was confused. The old slave goes back, and my young master probably needs to flip over the entire floor of the house again to calm down. The master is clever and decisive. Young and handsome. After speaking, the old man said goodbye and looked at the back of the old man returning. He also remembered the fear he had for his master's son in his words, and I was a bit worried about his personal safety. However, Qiqiao is deceitful, are you praising me or cursing me? Gongshi Qianzhong sneered, looked up, and saw 20 pairs of bright and lively eyes in the dark night looking at him, which startled him. This black cloth in the midst of winter, suddenly being stared at by so many people, who can be afraid? The next second, a group of servants and maids knelt down together, saying, "Thank you for saving your life, master. We are willing to serve your master wholeheartedly in this lifetime, and so on. Before Gongshi Dong could refuse, he heard someone calling him General Gongshi. In the darkness it is Ji Yeyue, said to be the love of the former Yangzhou festival and comfort envoy Ji Mo's family. Ji Mo was late enough to dote on this precious pearl in her palm. For the sake of this precious daughter, even the moon in the water and the stars in the sky were plucked. I doted on this little daughter to the point of spoiling her. This little girl is only 13 years old this year. At first, I only accidentally listened to the person next to me discussing the daughter of the Ji family, and only then did I know her for the first time. I didn't know her well, let alone be interested in her. What does she mean by deliberately catching up? Here you are. The little girl was restless and didn't speak anymore, blushing with embarrassment. She just handed a hard and cool small object in her hand to Gongshi Dong's hand, then turned around and ran away. People who were originally confused are now even more confused. Under the moonlight, Master Dong raised his hand to examine the small object that the girl had given him. A small, hollow jade. What does it mean? Lang Jun. This is the love token that the little girl gave you. A timid servant opened his mouth. Master Dong suddenly realized and couldn't help but look at the noisy servant, but he quickly lowered his head. There's no need to be like this. If you have a home, go back with me. If you don't have a home, come with me. I'll send you a fee and each of you will return home. Let's live a peaceful life in the future. I met a 13-year-old girl at Duan Gan's house tonight, who is only half the height of Gongshi Dong. Although Gongshi Dong is lecherous, he naturally doesn't have any thoughts about her as a little girl. However, since the people in front of me have stood up for them and caused them to lose their livelihood in their original home, I naturally want to be a good person to the end, send the Buddha to the west, and settle them all down. But as a result, everyone was unwilling to leave, and the reason was nothing more than that Gongshi Dong had saved them, so Gongshi Dong was their master. Master Dong Fui, he hates trouble, but instead repeatedly causes trouble for himself. Last time, it was a severe torture that forced the Holy Emperor to push the case of haunting the capital onto him. This time, he sent 20 servants in one go. He's really despicable. Choose one person from the men as the leader, and one person from the women as the leader, one class for each. You will follow me from now on. Come home with me tonight, and I will arrange for you to stay. Remember. My name is Gongshi Dong. The general of the 16 guards of the imperial palace in the capital is of the 3rd rank. From now on, you will be my close servants and servants to Gongshi Dong. You have no chance to turn back. Tomorrow morning, remember to compile a list and hand it over to me, so that I know the names of all of you. The slaves loudly agreed. The main task has not been done yet. Gongshi Qianzhong and Gao Yao, together with 3,000 people from Bosi camp in Fuzhou town, presided over the funeral of their 30 guard brothers. Gao Yao held a torch and didn't dare to act casually like before. General Gongshi, General Shangjuan is not here. You are the main general. It's better for you to come. Due to General Lu Fanzhen's recruitment in Changnan and other places, Gongshi Qianzhong is currently the highest-ranking general in the entire Bohai Road Daxunlong Banner Army in Navy Camp. Gongshi no longer declined, took the torch from Gao Yao's hand and lit the bonfire for the ritual of bidding farewell to the heavens. Chapter 1, Act 10. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Gongshi is a Taoist and also a disciple of the Lushan sect of the Eastern Jiangnan Road, Fujian Road, and Xuanzhou Qingxi Xianyou Temple during the National Dynasty. There are apprenticeship posts and legitimate apprentices. So for this sacrificial ceremony, General Gongshi personally wrote a memorial for his guard brothers according to the teachings of Mount Lu. Gongshi Qianzhong walked around the corpse bed with vigorous steps, silently reciting the book, Supernatural Science, from Mount Lu. His right eye scattered a faint and imperceptible golden light, which was the radiance that ignited the gaze of the silkworm swamp. refining water and fire, washing away sin and dirt. Although there is no actual clear ownership relationship between the Bohai Road military governor's office and the Navy camp, so far both armies only have the same level of military power, and even the Navy camp's military town is slightly higher than the Bohai Road military governor's office that will lead them in the future. They still sent people to offer condolences. At the entire funeral scene, 30 corpses, dressed in brand new black military uniforms, were placed neatly on their beds by workers, waiting for cremation in the early hours of the morning. The entire sacrificial ceremony was eerie and oppressive, with 30 corpses placed together, which still had a huge impact on a living person. The soul's summoning banner stood high and was torn apart by the strong wind in the late night, making a loud sound. Except for the deceased, everyone else was dressed in dark black robes with white scarves wrapped around their waists as a sign of mourning. The funeral ceremony was grand, and the corpses were dressed neatly. Their faces were pale, their eyes slightly open, their lips lightly closed, as if they were still alive. They seemed to be looking up to the sky and sighing, as if completing their last heavenly question. In the vast twilight, how I let go. If we really want to go through all the forms of rituals such as the beginning and end, summoning souls, sending funerals, protecting funerals, running funerals, setting up spiritual seats, treating coffins, bathing, carrying corpses, holding rice, displaying banners, small and large funerals, formal attire, hanging coffins, stopping coffins for burial, day and night funerals, Shuowang funerals, divination of ancestral homes, divination of burial days. Opening funerals for ancestors, arranging burial carts, displaying objects, leading and delivering funerals, displaying objects, burial, and sacrificial offerings, etc., then the entire Donggang camp will have to be renamed Yifenshong directly. Moreover, the conditions of the entire Donggang naval camp are limited, and even a few sacrificial items were hastily displayed, which is a bit of a joke. The important thing is not that. The entire funeral, in addition to the ceremonial officials who sing praises, recite hymns, and offer sacrifices, there are also monks and Taoists who are temporarily invited to recite scriptures and worship Buddha. The flow of people is rolling, and people of all ages are here. However, during the entire funeral, there were 3 people absent from the demon lord. Yun Mengji, Fumoruo, and the newly arrived black-clad Jinsua, who won Jinming. They have another task. In order to lure the snake out of the cave, Gongshi Qianzhong deliberately released a message, spreading the truth that the deputy general of the Buxian Long Dao Jidushi and the guard of Gongshi Qianzhong were completely destroyed, and Gongshi Qianzhong himself was seriously injured due to the attack. Even the funerals of the guard members were presided over by his subordinate generals. There was a mix of truth and falsehood, and there was a mix of truth and falsehood. To go fishing. As a result, within 2 days, those troublemakers who couldn't resist were asked around to gather accurate information about whether Gongshi Qianzhong was dead or alive. The exact information is definitely impossible to inquire about. On the 3rd day alone, Yun Mengji, along with Fumoluo and Yingxinming, captured 3 batches and more than 10 people. Upon inquiry, these people were all hired by the downstream merchant group of the naval camp, including 2 white roosters and a Japanese slave merchant who could speak Central Plains Chinese. Gongshi Qianzhong directly ordered the arrest, separate imprisonment, and not to be stingy with heavy punishment, especially for that Japanese slave. His homeland is far away from the heavenly dynasty, and his identity is only a merchant. He must have been ordered to spy on military planes from afar. Either the Japanese slaves have already heard some news and realized that we are going to use force against him. Either it's simply curiosity, but it's also impossible. With the cunning of the Japanese slave people, even if it's just curiosity, they can't just be curious about what we're doing all day here. And those 2 white roosters. The white chicken people are located on the peninsula and do not pay tribute or enter the court for many years. The great saint of Emperor Taizong's culture and martial arts, Emperor de Guangxiu, later the Grand General, and the Chief Inspector of Antong, Shui Rengui, have all carried out severe attacks on the white chicken people who jumped up and down, and stationed heavy troops to guard them closely. The current white chicken people, backed by Fuyu, collude with the Japanese slaves of a corner country, and form a tripartite confrontation with the Xinlua people of the brotherly country on the peninsula, but they constantly attack each other and regard each other as enemies. The people of Xinlua have always regarded the heavenly kingdom as their suzerain, but they were oppressed by Fuyu and Baiji. This time, the court ordered the formation of the Fumo town Bosi in the reactivation of the East China Sea Navy, in order to establish a powerful imperial navy capable of long-distance warfare, cross-sea attacks on the Japanese slaves, and aid Xinlua within 6 months. The white chicken man followed the Japanese slave people and traveled thousands of miles to the entrance of the naval fleet camp in the Heavenly Dynasty to inquire about the truth and falsehood. His intention was clearly evident. Gongshi Qianzhong immediately ordered the closure of the information, strictly prohibiting all residents of the camp from leaving without any need. If there are any problems or dissatisfaction, let them come to find him. A secret order was issued to Ng Zhenming and Yun Mengji to separate and interrogate all the captured crew members of the business group. As long as there is any concealment, they can be punished severely. Anyway, Gongshi Qianzhong doesn't intend to let them leave alive. On the other hand, he personally went to Gao Yao's tent to find him, explained the situation, and requested that he and himself jointly write a letter again, urging the court to ban the merchant ships downstream of the naval camp. Even so far, I have reason to suspect that the deceased in that small fishing village, my personal guards, are all related to them. Yunmeng Machine, Fumero and Yingshenming stood outside the tent curtain, isolating any eyeliner and ears that might eavesdrop. Gao Yao's face turned pale, but he also understood the key and unconditionally supported Gongshi's ideas. The two of them wrote letters overnight to General Lu Fanjin and the military academy to explain the situation. They also called in Ng Zhenming and asked him to write letters to his adoptive father, the commander of the East China Sea, and the General Du Wanruo, asking him to pay attention and send more people to help. They also wrote letters to the court, reporting everything that had happened in the entire Donggang fleet camp in detail to Shengting. After the letter was written, Gongshi Qianzhong personally carefully sealed it and handed it over to the brave and skilled Fumoluo to select a small team and deliver it overnight with 3 letters. Then, Yin Mingji was asked to send him a letter to the mansion in his hometown of Chang'an, ordering the head of his own mansion, Meng Tiantong, to publicly recruit staff in the name of the Deputy Inspector of Bohai Road, the Bosi Chief of Fumo Town, and the Grand General Qianzhong. As long as it was not some unscrupulous and ignorant individuals, they could come to Meng Tiantong for recruitment. Yun Mengji and Fumoluo are both trusted confidants of Gongshi Qianzhong. Meng Tiantong from his hometown received a letter from Yun Mengji and knew that the situation was urgent and could not wait. He immediately activated his connections and launched a recruitment campaign to recruit heroes from all over the world. In just 3 days, Meng Tiantong recruited more than 300 exiles, fugitives, criminals, and bandits from all over the world, known as exiles. They were subjected to unified martial arts and written tests, and their abilities were checked and classified according to their abilities. They were divided into upper, middle, and lower classes, and the lower class could not be appointed. However, they could stay in the mansion for miscellaneous work. After all, if someone comes all the way and you drive them away, it would lose the reputation of a great general who loves virtue and wealth. Moderate, can be sent to the side of the general to make him a servant's armor and a personal sword attendant. Superior, that's the talent that the Langzhou needs the most now. We must deliver it to Urung immediately. Gongshi Qianzhong doesn't know about those things, he has been sleeping soundly these past 2 days. Early this morning, Gongshi Qianzhong had just woken up and lifted the blanket when a sudden gust of fresh air rushed in. The wind outside the tent curtain blew, and the blanket he had slept in all night cooled through. Looking up and rubbing his eyes, the disheveled Gongshi Qianzhong had not had time to wash his face, but it was Gao Yao who woke him up. Someone has arrived at the county government. They say someone claimed the unnamed body of that small fishing village.